which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Beagle,
I'm here.
Deputy Mayor Resnick,
Present.
Councilmember Behrman,
Present.
Councilmember Gotchel, Councilmember Grenlund Fox, here. Councilmember Sharp,
Present.
Councilmember Smiley,
Here.
quorum present.
Thank you. Changes or additions to the agenda as presented tonight. City Manager?
I have none, Mayor.
Assistant City Manager?
I have none, Mayor.
Any from the dais? All right, seeing none. First item of business tonight is approval of minutes. We have one set of minutes to approve tonight. That's from the regular City Council meeting of October 10th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Any comments, corrections, additions? Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the regular City Council meeting minutes of October 10th, 2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have one item of correspondence tonight, a memo regarding the Employee Assistance Program rollout, which moves us to the call to the public. The rules to the call to the public are as follows. The public shall address the council during the call to the public, which shall be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence and again immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reason for addressing the council, and all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. Do we have anybody for the first call to the public tonight? Seeing none, I'll close the first call to the public and move on to city manager's reports. Departmental report, September 2023. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Resnick?
Thank you. This question for Mr. John in the background. I noticed that the list for the FOG sampling was quite extensive for September sampling. And again, second month in a row, no exceedances.
Correct. Although, if I'm not mistaken, it shouldn't be anything. They're done on a quarterly basis. So the next one will be done in November, next month.
Right. The September ones
September
were...
month was clean. Nobody had any violations.
All right. Very good. That's the second
Okay.
report in a row.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. So they did get sampled.
They got sampled.
Okay.
That's good news. Any other questions? Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. More of a comment than a question. I had some concerns about all the projects that were on the Parks and Recreation Commission, and Deanna McGee and I were communicating, and I just wanted to thank her for the quick response, and it looks pretty satisfactory. We got a lot of stuff going on in Parks and Rec. We got to stay on top of it as a whole community. A lot of big projects this year, so thank you.
Councilmember Gotchel.
Thank you. I believe it was regarding economic development. There was a note in one of the reports, I believe it was that one. Yeah, on the second page of it, the second bullet, talking about holding meetings with the property owner for back in Pontiac Trail now that Wings, et cetera, is closed and Rite Aid is closed and whatnot. We obviously have CVS at Charms and Wixom gone as well. And so the future isn't foreseeably, I think, a single store moving into Rite Aid or what used to be CVS, just because that, who's going to compete? You have CVS across the street, you have Kroger across the street, so that's that. We don't, I mean, boutiques aren't going to take up that much space as well, so where do we go from there? Is there anything we should be doing as a council that comes to your mind to be helpful or proactive in making sure that whatever they want to do or whatever ideas we can give them to help things get turned around quickly, then we should be thinking or discussing those?
That is an excellent question, and I am glad you caught that because that's a trend that we've been noticing is how are these, I'll say 1990s strip malls, they don't seem to be doing as well, especially with what's happening to the pharmacy market. And it's going to be a challenge that we're going to have to look at as a community. That's a conversation we plan either as part of the next master planning process or even sooner with the Planning Commission taking a look at our ordinances. All of those properties are zoned B2. So they all kind of fall under the same permitted uses. But what are the uses we'd like to see, and what are creative things that maybe we have to look at to incentivize potential redevelopments or filling of those spaces? I think it's going to be it's a bigger question, but something that's on our radar. I don't have anything specifically yet, but I think our intention would be that's a conversation to start with the Planning Commission and try to get some ideas. I'm going to give a larger hypothetical example. If we find that 2 to 5 acre parcels owned for commercial uses are struggling these days, maybe there's a need to look at overlay districts or different kind of planning and zoning techniques that we can put on top of that to facilitate new things. So it's something we need to keep an eye on. It's something we are keeping an eye on. We've had some conversations with those property owners about the ideas that they've had, and we're still kind of working through what our fits and how do those processes work. So it's very early, but I did at least want to get it out there that this is a problem that we're seeing.
Yeah, it's one that's concerning because you just look at kind of how can we future-proof our city so we don't, you had Flint and a bunch of other cities that were heavy industrial, us for a long time as well, and then Ford goes away or insert car company goes away, and that town is kind of screwed. That's the entire Rust Belt essentially. So all these strip malls, I don't know how you bounce back there without some significant changes. Restaurant might be taken over by another restaurant, but that's always been a pretty high turnover unit anyway. Rite Aid, you're not going to get another anchor there like it is, and right next door is the old Blockbuster. I read an article that Netflix is opening up some brick and mortar shops, but I don't think they're coming to Wixom. So I don't know. It's not just a Wixom issue, I guess. It's going to be the entire country has these old setback strip malls. What are we going to do with them? Because it's not going to be filmed anymore. I don't know how you bounce back on that one. CVS at Charms and Wixom, maybe there's another use or something, but yeah, it's going to be tough. So I think anything that we can be doing or that you want to put on our radar for discussion is, I'm game for it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you. And moves us on to the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member so requests, in which event the items were removed from the consent agenda and added to the regular agenda at the end of unfinished or new business. Do I have a motion?
Support.
Thank you. I got a motion and support to approve the consent agenda as presented tonight. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have no unfinished business tonight, so it moves us on to new business, item number 1, which is a recommendation to award the bid for the fire station upgrades and facility improvements to Shoncheck Incorporated of Wixom, Michigan, in the amount not to exceed $127,845 from Fire Facilities Improvements account number 411-336-979.353 and authorize the necessary budget amendments. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Support.
Thank you. Chief Kiesler.
Good evening, everybody. As you'll recall from our budget study session, I identified the fact that we're currently operating in an area of the building as far as it goes from restrooms and changing, and something that was designed back in the 70s. And at this point in time, with our current staffing and the people that we have, we really need to expand that and turn that into an area that can accommodate more than just one bathroom. So the upgrades here is to look on to upgrading that to a 2-bathroom facility along with an additional bedroom.
Okay. And also some of these improvements, because we have female firefighters now, correct?
That is correct. Primarily before that was 100% a male bathroom only, and now we're going to add a female bathroom.
Very good.
Correlation.
Very good. Do we have any questions? Councilmember Gretchen Fox.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
So my question is more about staffing. When I saw the project as far as the separate facilities, and I think the mayor for asking about the staff as far as we have female firefighters, so that's great. How many sleeping quarters do we have now?
We currently have 3.
And so you're going to add one more?
That's correct.
Okay. And then what is our staffing up to now for the part-time?
We have a total of 18 firefighters.
Just part-time or 18?
It's a combination because a lot of the full-time are also your paid-on-call firefighters as well. Yeah, they're doing both.
Okay.
So
And how's that going?
it's going excellent at this point. I'm still looking to hire more, and we're still trying to hire more. And we got a couple more coming down the pipeline, so we'll look to increase those numbers in the next couple of weeks.
Great news. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, more of a comment than a question, but Chief Geisler, it just looks really solid. 4 bids, 3 solid bids, local contractor, and somebody we've used before on the fire department grounds. So really, it looks like a good project, so I support it.
Plus, it's a local company, too. So.
Yep, I think I said that. Did I say local?
You said
Anybody else? All right, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to award the bid for the fire station upgrades and facility improvements to Shoncheck Incorporated of Wixom, Michigan, in the amount not to exceed $127,845 from Fire Facilities Improvement, account number 411-336-979.353, and authorize the necessary budget amendments. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. New business number 2 is a recommendation to accept a proposal from Hubbell Walton Clark Incorporated of West Bloomfield, Michigan, for design engineering services to assist in design and bidding for the installation of a city hall generator for a cost not to exceed $35,700 from other facility improvement account number 411-283-974.322. Do I have a motion?
so.
Support?
Very good. Mr. Sickmo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, what you have before you is a recommendation for assistance in getting a contractor to install the generator that we are purchasing through Wolverine. And if you recall, we purchased the generator in May of this year, and it takes around 11 months. So it's time to get a contractor in line. And we had started the bid process and quickly discovered, if you will, that there are quite a few unanswered questions on our end, and we feel that HRC can help us with those. And that's the proposal that they had presented to us, and they will assist us in getting that contract, getting the right contractor for us to install the generator.
Very good. Any questions? Councilmember Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor. So Director Sickma, the scope of the project here by Hubbell Roth and Clark, as I recall this, we ordered a 200 kilowatt natural gas generator. We're preparing a pad for a 200 kilowatt natural gas generator. And the first thing Hubbell Roth and Clark is going to do for us is make sure 200 kilowatts is big enough.
Well, they've confirmed that already for us, and the other...
Take that off the $35,000, because that's in their bid. It's one of the line items of things they're going to do for us in this. I'm kind of being petty, but it seemed like, and apologies for not alerting you to this beforehand, because I like to do that with the staff members. 35 grand to make sure the thing's big enough and we've already bought it? I know there's more to it than that, but I'm done.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
I had a question as well regarding the scope. Is part of it as well, the interior of the building, of course, is quite aged. And is there a possibility that wiring may have to be replaced in terms of the gauge and things of that sort?
There are 2 different switch gears that will be combined into one when all is said and done. We use a temporary or a pull behind or tow behind generator for this side of the city hall. And that with the 200 kilowatt the KW generator that we will purchase, we'll be able to support the whole building with that. So it'll be automatically powered as we lose power. So yeah, there's some automation there. It'll be combining the two switch gears and some other things that, yeah,
With no disruption to the building interior
and
itself, right?
that's the other portion of it. So because of the 911 calling and different things from the police department, we have to have continuous electrical, and we'll use our portable generator for that, but they'll need to set up that portable generator so that they can remove the old 35 kW that we have over at behind the police station and replace that with the new one. So in that interim, they'll be our tow behind there on the ready, if you will, and have an auto switch gear to start up for the police station during that piece.
But the electrical work will be primarily focused on the switchgear,
Switch gear, the design of that, yeah, that piece.
not anything internal to the wall that you anticipate.
There will be probably some recommendations, but we don't anticipate that at this time. Yeah. It's just the combining of the two power grids into one, and also allowing for the auto switch during construction, so a temporary piece of that.
Will be a backup.
Councilmember Barron.
I don't have an issue with us hiring Culver out in Park to do this because clearly it appears that this needs to be done. I shared this with City Manager Brown. I think my only concern is that we didn't know about this when we ordered the generator. Because if we're spending $35,000 on engineering to see what upgrades we're going to have to do to the building to accommodate this new generator we already purchased, one can only assume that next meeting or meeting after, we're going to be asked to approve $100,000 worth of electrical work to the building to accommodate this generator. It just kind of feels like these are things we should have known when we agreed to purchase the generator. Does that make sense? Because I don't believe that was part of the conversation back in May, that we were going to have to spend several $100,000 to get the building up to par to accept this generator. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's multiple ways of purchasing generators, and the recommendations that I had gotten from different sources was to buy it separately, and through the Sourcewell production that we did, and I feel that this way we're not going to get the 10 or 15% markup from the electrical contractor when we buy it.
No, it makes
we'll
sense.
buy
It makes sense, but I'm just saying, maybe had we just known that there will be costs associated with it, because I don't know if I envisioned when we approved the generator that there was going to be another $200,000 or whatever it's going to end up being to look it up. Does that make sense? But I think we're at the point now, we already ordered it, and it's going to be better than having to bring a temporary one over here, so let's move forward with it.
We have the temporary generator to use during the interim. We have a tow behind that we'll use for the police station. It's the automation of it.
It's going to make a lot more sense to have one on site that just powers everything. I agree.
All right. Mike Dargis here from HRC. Mike, I got a question. And I don't know if you can answer it or not, but roughly, what's it going to cost us to do the work that Tim just described to us with the crossover and connecting everything and making sure everything's...
I don't know those exact costs right now.
I mean, are we talking hundreds of thousands? Are we talking 50,000 or?
I would think 50,000 would be a reasonable number.
Okay.
I can get back to you once
Yep.
we narrow it down.
Yep, I appreciate that, because I think that'll answer some of the questions, answer some of the concerns that we have up here. Thanks. Councilmember Gacho?
Thank you. When I read this initially, it bothered me a little bit, but kind of to Councilmember Behrman's comments, I think we're just doing it in the reverse order from what we would expect. But it's not like we would have escaped any of this to begin with if we had started with the engineering bid and then the work and whatnot. And it even the second paragraph in our packet says, as previously explained, the purchase did not include installation or interconnection. So I think it might just feel out of order in terms of like the order of operations, but I don't have an issue with it. I think we would have come across all of this in due course anyway, whether we started with buying the generator or hiring HRC. We're gonna get to the same point of we have to accommodate electrically and the concrete pad or making the change. So I don't have an issue with this. It just felt a little bit weird, but I mean, it is what it is. It's almost like hiring a contractor, but going to buy your own light fixtures ahead of time so that you don't hit the markup for them driving back and forth to Home Depot, so.
And there's a long lead time waiting for this generator, so you had to get in line when you did, or, you know, you're pushed off another year.
Yep.
Also.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Mr. Darga, let me do your work for you.
Okay.
Rather than preliminary sizing for $2,000, perhaps it should read, fit the plan to a 200 kilowatt generator, rather than, hey, we're gonna figure out if that's enough. That's really kind of cart before the horse, isn't it? You should say, what do we need? And then let's make 200 kilowatts fit it, because you know, we don't need these lights running during a power outage. Maybe that's something we take off the circuit plan to get a 200 kilowatt generator to work for us. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And some other words I've heard. So, you know, to me, it just, your words in the proposal, let me read them for the record. It says, HRC will begin by reviewing the building loads and confirming that the 200 kilowatt generator is adequately sized for the building and existing building loads. That should have been 2 years ago.
I think where that came from was when we were in the back room and looking at the drawings that we had, something was flip-flopped on them, and the numbers weren't adding up. So I think that was like our first thing, was to look at that and make sure. But
We confirmed that, yeah.
I think Tim's after the fact went and talked with the other guy.
So can we give you $2,000 less and take that line item off of there? Yeah, it does. A win.
Well,
You made a motion?
It says not to exceed, so they want.
Does it
I don't
say
think
that?
we have to take a motion
All right.
to have that. They can just
Okay.
do it, you know.
So
whatever.
we'll follow up.
It doesn't
follow up, put it
exceed
on the
the
calendar to
35.7.
follow up, see how much we pay them at the end of the day.
All right.
Okay.
Anybody, any other questions?
Sure. Oh, I did have one more question, I'm sorry. So the 215,000, and I remember that when we bought this thing, it didn't include installation and, you know, all the wiring and temporary generators and all that stuff. So the $215,000 budget, was that all in? Are we at, because I recall the generator was like 180
So
grand, wasn't it?
We had worked with an electrical, or an electrician when we came up with that number. We didn't get it from engineering, we went to the generator's provider, and we talked with an electrician that we typically use, and say, hey, how much is this gonna be? And that's the number that we came up with.
But it was purchasing the generator and installing it.
This-
Okay. So
We're still within budget.
well, we are now, but once we get the bill from the electrician, because we're at am I about right, about 180,000 for the generator?
It was 120.
Oh, 120, okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to accept a proposal from Hubble Roth and Clark Incorporated of West Bloomfield, Michigan for design engineering services and assist in design and bidding for the installation of a City Hall generator for a cost not to exceed $35,700 from other facility improvement account number 411-283-974.322. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Mike. New business number 3 is a recommendation to authorize the purchase of 14 Armor Express Razor 2 ballistic vests, load-bearing vest carriers, and peripherals from On Duty Gear LLC of Clinton Township, Michigan for $14,280 from body armor account number 411-301-980.371. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Yeah, Chief Langmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. What you've got before you is a recommendation. Our current body armor is expiring here in early '24. It's good for about 5 years. They warranty it for 5 years. At the end of 5 years, it has to be replaced. We're reaching that time, so we're requesting to be able to purchase the gear. This is the same vest that we're currently wearing. Our officers like it. It's lightweight. It's comfortable. They like the exterior carriers. They look professional, which I think is important. So this purchase will be for the vest panels themselves, the carriers, and then any peripherals that need to be replaced due to wear. Things like the nameplates and the police signs and stuff in the back. I want to purchase them from On Duty Gear. They do have the state of Michigan bid for these vests. They're out of Clinton Township, and we're requesting permission to purchase. We do have, we have been approved for Bulletproof Vest Program, grant program through the Department of Justice. We will be receiving 50% back for each vest that we order. We need 14 vests at this time.
What's the turnaround time for these vests too? Will we get them before they expire?
We should get them before they'll expire. It's usually 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
But they're varied as to when they were ordered. So some were early, some were late. We'll get them as soon as we can.
Very good. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Chief, I remember, back 10 years ago, Armor Express was having some issues material-wise with UV interaction with the longevity of the vest. Have any improvements been made from the last 5 years ago when we bought them till now that would suggest they would have a longer life, or are they still at 5 years?
They stay at 5 years. They've gone back when they had the issues way back when. It was actually Second Chance that had a lot of the issues. They were using a new substance called Xylon. Everybody went to it when we found out Xylon didn't last. And everybody went back to Kevlar. Kevlar is what these are made out of. It's tried and true. It's the thing that's been used forever, and it's still there. Improvements in it, they're lighter, they're thinner, they're more flexible than they were back when I first started. But it's still the same material.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mayor Beagle. Hello, Chief.
Hello.
This is no bearing on my approval of this or anything. I just you had said that you had made it sound like the grant, for 50% reimbursement was kind of for sure thing. It reads a little differently in our packet. It says we're eligible and that kind of thing. So I assume that we have to apply for it and then it's already kind of done. Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful.
That's why I'm here now. I want to be, everybody's grants were approved at the same time. To make sure that we fit the timeline, I want to get On Duty Gear in here so we're not waiting behind Detroit or MSP or anybody like that.
Great. Sounds good. So thank you. That's all I have.
Councilmember Granlund Fox?
Thank you. I'm glad to see that we do provide the external vests, because I think it is better, as you talk about in the motion sheet here. Do the officers have a choice, or they all just want the external anyway?
They have a choice. They're issued the internal carrier, which I prefer when they're at dress events, funerals and those types of things. I think they look better, but on a day-to-day basis, they wear the external carriers. They're so much better on their backs. They don't have the issues that I have and a lot of the older officers have from wearing all that gear on their waist.
Great, thank you.
Welcome. Councilmember Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Langmeyer, well done on the proposal here. I love the data on the bottom and the footnotes and actually directing to real data rather than just talk. Not that I wouldn't support it anyway, because I definitely would, but it really is nice to see a data-driven decision, so thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions? All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to authorize the purchase of 14 Armor Express Razor 2 ballistic vests, load-bearing vest carriers and peripherals from On Duty Gear LLC of Clinton Township, Michigan for $14,280 from body armor account number 411-301-980.371. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Go order them. New business number 4 is a request for approval of the 2024 calendar year proposed operating budget for the Commerce, Walled Lake, and Wixom Trailway Management Council. Do I have a motion? So moved.
Support.
Very good. City Manager Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. The report speaks to most of the details. This is the standard required approval from the local governing bodies that are involved with the what's still known as the Commerce, Walled Lake, and Wixom Trailway Management Council. That's about to change. As you know, Walled Lake has withdrawn. There was some...
You answered my question.
Yeah, there was some discussion about the timing of when we could make the change to the interlocal agreement. That timing is now. I was just contacted by the city attorney today and said that they are working on it and should have an answer to us shortly. So maybe it'll be before 2024, as I put in the report, but it's going to be in that ballpark of early 2024 or perhaps later in 2023 when we finally get that cleaned up. The total revenue is $142,000 and change. Total expenses are $60,000 and change. You'll note that there was a beginning surplus at the beginning of this proposed budget of about $95,000. At the end of this proposed budget, it drops to about $82,000. We do still have $10,000 contributions from the 2 remaining communities in the agreement, which are Commerce Township and Wixom. We do have that in there because we feel it's important to have a healthy fund balance for anything that might come into play, a major repair issue or something that's unforeseen. And then also later on, ultimately it's going to be many years down the road where we are going to have to repave that path somewhere along the line. So we'd like to keep the surplus funding at a pretty healthy level, and that's why we're still having contributions from both Commerce and Wixom. Modest as they are, but it's just good to stay in that habit and make sure that we keep it funded well and keep ourselves ready for any kind of needed maintenance that needs to be handled in the future. And that's pretty much all that I was going to cover. If there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Councilmember Gacho.
Thank you. So you had mentioned repaving and like striping and maintenance is in here as well. Isn't that each city's individual responsibility at this point, now that things are done?
I would call maintenance that is the case. In terms of the ultimate long run when it's time to fully repave it, that might be a bit of a different situation. But it's fair to say that currently that's as it's foreseen, it would be on individual communities technically. But I think in the long run, if it's a multi-million-dollar expense, which I expect it to be in 20 years, we might be looking for other funding sources and jointly funding it as well, depending on what needs to be done in terms of repaving.
So looking at this, and I think I questioned it last year as well, but where does this end up? Like, what work does the Trailway Council have left to do? Because we're being presented with, generally I don't care, and I'll vote yes for this, but we're being presented and asked to approve a budget that isn't balanced. So that doesn't seem right to my mind, and that's including $20,000 in contributions from Wixom and Commerce Township and our great partners in between us left us. But I just, passing or approving a non-balanced budget that we want to preserve the surplus, but we're eating into it every year. And in 5 or 6 years, we're going to be out of money. So I just, like, where does this end? Is kind of my question. What's the ultimate goal with the Trailway Council? Are they going to start raising money outside of us and the billboard, or are we just going to keep paying somebody to manage things until we're out of money and then we have to have this discussion again?
Yeah, there's fundraising activities that the trail managers is undertaking to create sustainable source of funding that would be there to supplement these kind of expenses that are on the communities. So that is something that's being actively pursued by John Hensler, our trail manager. He had a cool word for it, and I apologize, I can't remember it. It's a forward fund, I think is what it was. It was the forward fund. Just dawned on me. So that's something that he is soliciting for donations for, and we do receive donations for it to supplement the actual funding that's received from the communities and the funding that is available with that surplus funding. As to your, I think, original part of the question about what expenses are in there, there's X number of thousands of dollars. I think it's reflected as $20,000 for the trailway manager's time and administrative responsibilities. There's insurance, attorney costs, there's invasives that come into play that we have regular expenses for Phragmites and things of that nature.
I see that stuff, but I'm just like, at what point, what's the ultimate goal with the council, I think is what's in my mind. Because if nothing changes in 5 or 6 years, it's out of money unless we want to start contributing more than 10,000.
I think that could come into play.
From the assistant city manager. Surplus right now is 95. At the end of the year, it'll be 82. So we're spending more than we're bringing in theory. I mean, that maintenance and infrastructure might not get used to the 12,000 extent, but in theory, we're going to be spending more than we're bringing in. So either we need to start fundraising and have a Friends of the Trail or the Forward Fund,
That's what I'm speaking of, right?
But we need to get that going. That way, we're not passing unbalanced budgets. So it's just a curious kind of a thing, because we're on our own when it comes to maintenance at this point. So why do we have a council? Unless it's going to raise money, and that's not in here. So
I do apologize for my expression. I was trying to understand. I'm not as familiar with the budget itself, so I was kind of reading through it, trying to piece that together. But the one thing I'll add to what City Manager Brown said is, part of what Commerce and Wixom get for paying for is that you mentioned John Hensler's time, the trail manager, and what that does is it does give us extra capacity to go after, whether it's grant funding, whether it's programming for the trail. Most, and I'm not saying this is an exclusive reason to do this, but most successful trails do have some sort of management group, and it just helps provide the attention. How much the city we want to contribute to that is a different question, but that is the intent, is to put resources towards investing in that.
And it keeps us involved from an administrative standpoint with Commerce Township. We each have representatives on the Trailway Council, and it's on me as the Wixom's representative and Larry Gray, the supervisor's position for Commerce Township, to try to make sure that we maintain this important resource in a way that keeps it ongoing, keeps it in good condition. And I think that's the purpose of the money that's getting spent. And with the, as I mentioned, the expenses are such that we're eating into it a little bit, and that as time moves on, if it becomes a situation where we feel that's not a good situation, then we would up the increase, the contributions from the communities to get us into that sustainable situation, so that we're not eating into a fund balance once we get to a point where we feel we're comfortable. And I think that's what we're working towards right now. Do we need 95,000? No, so that's why we're spending into it at the numbers that we are.
Yeah, the questioning, I'm not thinking, hey, let's get out of it too. And so I felt like some of the explanation was trying to sell me on staying a part of it, but it's more just look at the future for the Trailway Council. What's the goal? Because it can't be, hey, Wixom pay us 10,000, hey, Commerce pay us 10,000, and where's the rest of the money going to come from? We have to look forward now that it's done. So hopefully we can get that message across to start getting some more fundraising going, rather than just our cities kicking in. A third one leaves everyone high and dry. So, thank you.
Understood.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Thank you. Maybe just to add to that, I've had many conversations with John Hensler. There is a lot of activity going with the Forward Fund right now. It's actually set up temporarily through the Rochester Community Foundation. So there is a mechanism right now to contribute to it, and several people have. The Friends of the Trail is a very active group right now. And I think the end goal would be to create something similar to, on a much smaller scale, of course, the Traverse Area Regional Trail System, the TARP Trail System, which is self-funded. There's endowments. I mean, some people leave vast parts of their estate, to the TARP Trail System, and they do a lot of events. They do a lot of fundraising. I think that's the ultimate goal, John. It'll be much smaller scale, but it has started, and there is an active group. And the Friends, by the way, do a lot of volunteer work as well on the trail, so you can get involved in that capacity as well. So it has started.
Councilmember Behrman.
Thank you. My only follow-up was just now that Walled Lake has left, so we're coming through and striping the trail. Are we just leaving Walled Lake out? They're not getting striped in their municipality at all? We're not doing anything in Walled Lake because they left, correct?
That should be correct, yes. I'll double check on that, if that's the intention. That should be the case, yes. I can't recall that being discussed, is all I'm saying. I don't want to shoot from the hip, but that should be the case, yes.
Because if I remember correctly, they were going to treat it as a park, so are they in theory, they're maintaining their trail themselves?
Yeah, that was made clear to them that the maintenance would be on them. That's why I said I just don't remember it specifically being discussed, but I assume that to be the case, yes. But I'll double check it.
Okay, I was just curious if
The number
that's
doesn't
the
look
case,
very
or
large, so.
I just would hate for us to be continuously supporting something that's in another municipality, but at the same note.
That's the downside. You want it to look good, but I understand that that was their acceptance of responsibility for that, so.
Okay, thank you.
And then the other thing I want to point out, in line with that, there's a final portion of funds that are essentially attributable to each of the communities, and Walled Lake will be getting a check on that front that we just cut for them and just replaced once already. So we're hoping that's going to be cashed shortly, and we'll be clean from that, which this activity should represent or include already, because the check's been cut. So there is a piece of the surplus that's being allocated to Walled Lake to fund maintenance and those kind of things, so they should have that covered, correct?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the request for approval of the 2024 calendar year proposed operating budget for the Commerce, Walled Lake, and Wixom Trailway Management Council. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And that moves us on to new business number 5, and that's a recommendation to approve equity adjustments for library employees as recommended by the Library Board of Trustees Personnel Committee and by the Wage and Salary Committee. Do I have a motion? So moved.
Support.
Very good. Library Director Dickinson.
Hi, good evening. So the library is coming to the city based on our agreement with employees for some equity adjustments due to a couple different factors. We have seen prevailing salaries increase quite a bit. So in terms of retaining current employees, but also our ability to hire new staff at a competitive rate. And then also we've had an instance where the minimum and maximum salaries have increased 2 years in a row. We had newer staff that are now continuously bumping up against the bottom of the minimum salary. So in the event I hire a new librarian, they would be paid almost the same as somebody who has more experience, higher quantity of work, higher quality of work, etc. So the Personnel Committee met and reviewed a bunch of data from the Library of Michigan and also a Detroit regional survey as well to look at where adjustments were appropriate, and came up with the 5 included on here. And then we met with the Wage and Salary Committee as well, and the full Library Board also approved these last night as well. And then just to note too, there's no budget impact to the City of Wixom budget. The library pays 100% of wages, fringes, etc.
This is being brought because they're considered city employees. So that's why it's
Correct,
being
yeah,
brought
we
to
have
us.
an employee lease agreement, so both sides have to agree.
Do we have any questions for the Library Director? You're getting off easy tonight.
Well, just thank you for the thorough proposal. Good, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of good data in here. You went and benchmarked and made a recommendation, and got it approved through your channels, and really, really thorough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to approve equity adjustments for library employees as recommended by the Library Board of Trustees Personnel Committee and by the Wage and Salary Committee. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. And that concludes the new business portion of tonight's meeting, and that moves us to the call to the public. I'm not going to read the rules of the call to the public again, but with the exception of you can speak whatever's on your mind right now. Is there anybody for the second call to the public? All right, seeing none. I do see a student out there tonight, so if we could have you come up to the podium and introduce yourself, give us your address, and state your reason for being here tonight. This way we get you on the record, so you get credit for this.
Hi, I'm Clara Krosick. I go to Lakeland High School, but I live in Milford. You want my address in Milford, though?
Sure.
Okay, it's 2842 Deer Ridge Drive, across from the middle school. And I'm here for my AP Gov meeting for
Right.
extra credit.
And have you talked to any of your other students that have attended one of these meetings?
I don't think any of them have been to the Wixom one, too.
Okay. Oh, yeah, they have. but-
Oh, they have?
So what we like to do here is we like to ask you a question. And one of us up here will ask you a question so you can answer about government. Does anybody have a question?
Yeah, I talked last time. Get some new blood in.
Keenan, we'll have Councilmember Gonchal ask you a question.
I don't know if you have questions, and I don't like embarrassed.
All right. All right. Well, let's see. Well,
Let our deputy mayor do it, and he's good at it.
Yeah.
oh, well, we'll just.
All right, here's the easy one.
Okay.
How many U.S. senators are there?
I want to say
Down,
8.
Don't feel bad if you miss it.
No worries.
Is it 8? Is that close?
So how many states are there in the United States?
50?
And how many senators per state?
I don't know.
Michigan has 2.
Okay.
Other states have
400.
All right, and we understand if you get extra credit if you get a picture with us, so we'll hang out afterwards for that. Thank you. All right, city manager comments. City Manager Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. So City Manager Update just has a listing of employees celebrating anniversaries in November. We have 12 employees total, ranging from library employees to Carla Wolf and Michael Pistolesi in the police department at 9 years, as well as Tina Searles at the lower end with 1 year of experience celebrating her anniversary in November. So we just wanted to say congratulations to all those employees for their service to the city and how much we appreciate that and value that. And that's pretty much all that I had on the CMU, other than I did have that correspondence item on the EAP, which we're excited about. Seeing that move forward will be a nice new benefit for employees. Then there's dates that are on the calendar for you to take a look at as well. If you have any questions or anything you want to bring to my attention, I'll be happy to try to address them.
Very good. Assistant City Manager Benson. Do we need to stretch this out, or are we good?
No. Just one quick note, per City Council's discussion on the 10th, we have released the Renton RFQ with the edits that were requested, so that is out there. It was made officially public today. So we'll now kind of start the publicity tour, if you will, of get interest in that. We do have the Oakland County Community Showcase this Friday at the Executive Center at the Oakland County campus. So, by the way, if anyone's free on Friday morning, please come join us. It'll be fun. And that's all I have.
Very good. Council comments. Councilmember Roland Fox.
Thank you. I would like to congratulate all those employees celebrating work anniversaries and thank them for their service to the city. And I'd also like to remind everyone to vote on November 7th. Thank you.
Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. missed this, and I'm just going to ask Assistant City Manager Benson. In your report earlier, you mentioned you had a meeting with MDOT about right-of-way and easements and developing a property and possibly selling it. How did that go? What kind of feedback did you get from MDOT in the meeting, if you could share that? I mean, just generally, is it positive or?
It was positive. It is possible to do. It's cumbersome. It is a cumbersome process for MDOT to determine when they have excess property and what they're willing to do with it. Even the process of getting a section of right-of-way from them, they tell you up front it takes a year. They'll do it, and they're happy to do it. It takes a year to get through their processes. The same applies for excess property. So in the particular case I'm referencing, we're talking about Beck Road right-of-way, but we had the idea of asking, well, what are you doing with the rest of this? Do you have plans? And if you don't, would you be interested in releasing that? So we're working through that. That might be something that comes forward. I don't know that council's decision would necessarily be needed if we're just trying to get them to move it, but that is the intention. But they're receptive.
So it's like us selling city property, they got to sell state property, basically, state-owned property.
Yeah.
Would be a challenge.
Well, in what portion of the property would they be willing to let go and working through those steps?
Okay, thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Gacho.
Thank you. I did see a LinkedIn post about the RFQ today from the Assistant City Manager. The map outline, though, left off the elementary school side, so.
If you look in the document, I promise you, we highlighted and put a star there. I was using the original, JPEG,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
good catch on that one.
One thing I did want to comment, I guess a few things. First, very nice adaptation by the fire department for dealing with the weather during the fire department open house. Still very good time. I think the obstacle course was a big hit, at least with the Bearman kids too, so that might be one to keep around. But yeah, very good job. I was sad that we couldn't get the panther hunt off, but the weather didn't want to cooperate at all, so maybe next year, hopefully next year. One thing that I did note, though, in our packet was for Planning Commission meeting minutes, kind of relevant to our last meeting discussion. And I didn't look at the timeline, but I assume that meeting was before our meeting. It might have been nice to have that as a draft, but it looks like 3 members of the Planning Commission weren't even at the meeting. And the minutes are primarily dominated by 2 individuals speaking. So reading through that, it kind of seemed like you have a group of 7 people on city council who've been elected by the public, one way, and then 2 members of the Planning Commission want it another way. And that's what the pushback we were getting. And so it's just a little difficult to stomach, I think. And looking at the reasoning behind not wanting to develop our property, it doesn't even seem like they fully understand why we want to develop that. And that question came up. And then that it would hold back redeveloping where Little Caesars is and where the bank is. If they wanted to redevelop, they would have done it by now. And so a lot of reading that after last meeting's frustrations and discussions, it sheds a light on maybe we do need to have another joint meeting or something, because it seems like we are on opposite ends of the spectrum for where downtown moves from here. And it seems like some members of Planning Commission are not wanting to move things forward unless it looks identical to what we have, or this Old Town feeling. I feel like if anyone redevelops where Little Caesars is or where the bank is, it's not going to look like an 1800s downtown building. They're going to want something more modern. And so it might be a benefit at some point. I know we're going to have the design committee, but that's a small collection of people from here, there, and the other place. It might be helpful to have everyone in the same room. That way it's not 2 people from council and 2 people from Planning Commission get on the same page on the design committee, but then when we each get to our respective boards, we run into a majority that says, no, forget that. So Just a thought, it was kind of disheartening to read where those comments were, though. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mayor Beagle. Just a couple little things. A week from today, we got Halloween. Be careful of the little sprouts out there. 2 weeks from today, Election Day. Kathy and Crystal, I hope it goes smooth and you have no issues.
Thank you.
That's all, thanks.
Councilmember Behrman.
Thank you. I too wanted to express my children's gratitude to the fire department. I actually thought it was really nice being the way you guys set it up indoors, and I mean, rain or not, I think the setup worked. It was also really nice to walk through the fire department and see like all of the lockers are basically filled now with staff members. It's just amazing to think just a couple of years ago when we went to the fire department open house and they had 3 people there working the open house, and it was just nice to see people there. And then second, the trick-or-treating downtown this weekend. That also was very well attended. The line was around the block. I assume they sold out a couple times over and ran out of bags. I mean, there was a lot of people out. Granted, the weather was nice, but it was nice to see downtown just packed for that event.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Also would like to extend my thanks to Chief Geisler and the crew there. My granddaughter enjoyed it so much, I think she went through the obstacle course 5 times. She enjoyed putting the fire out. But it was nicely organized and it worked out great, even with the food on the inside versus being outdoors. Pavers look great. Thank you very much, Tim. I guess the last thing to do is benches now, right? And then we'll be where we should have been last year with it. So I'm glad that at least the work got completed before the snow flies. Also, Halloween coming up. Watch out for the little ones running across the street and get out and vote on December. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you and congratulations to all the employees that are celebrating work anniversaries and thank them for their service to the city. And I want to thank Chief Geisler for allowing me to burn some hamburgers and hot dogs at the fire station open house. But not only was it nice to see all the lockers full, but it was nice to see all the firefighters there with smiles on their faces, with enthusiasm, wanting to show the public what we have there. And that's a lot to you, and I appreciate everything that you've done there, and keep it going. And then don't forget to vote. And speaking of that, the clerk gave us a little summary here, and there's been 2,026 absentee ballots issued so far, with 917 of those returned. So a lot of absentee voters, so maybe it'll just be a real late day at the polls because everyone's already voted. So.
And don't forget the 9 days of early voting that starts Saturday.
Yes. And let us know what days you're there, so we'll go and vote. We'll see you when we vote. So.
Okay.
And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support. Thank you. All those in favor, I got a motion in the support. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thanks, everybody. And guys, hang tight. We'll get a picture.